Now, if you think I was just going to sit in that guest room and mind my own business while my granddaughter's marriage fell apart, well, you don't know Eleanor Patterson very well, do you? No, sir, I had work to do, and I was going to start that very first evening. The first sign that I had an agenda, though Linda didn't catch on right away, bless her heart, came at dinner. Instead of sitting at that little kitchen table where Linda had set my place, I stood in the doorway of their formal dining room, running my good hand along that beautiful mahogany table that hadn't seen a proper meal in 2 years. Linda, sweetheart, I said, putting just the right amount of wistfulness in my voice. Would you mind terribly if we ate in here tonight? This beautiful table is just sitting here looking lonely, and I always believe food tastes better when it's served with a little ceremony. Well, you know what happened. Tom started moving toward that china cabinet before Linda could say a word. You're absolutely right, Eleanor. Linda, where do you keep the good dishes? 20 minutes later, there we were, sitting around that gorgeous dining room table with Linda's everyday spaghetti served on their finest wedding china, cloth napkins, and candles flickering between us. It should have felt ridiculous, all that elegance for a Tuesday night, but instead, it felt special, important. Now this is civilized, I declared, raising my water glass. To family dinners and second chances. Over that dinner, I worked my magic. I asked Tom about a client case he'd mentioned months ago, and wouldn't you know it, Linda was surprised to discover he'd actually won a significant settlement. Here they'd been living in the same house, and she didn't even know about one of his biggest professional victories. But here's the thing, dear ones. I kept steering the conversation toward their shared memories. Do you remember that vacation you took to the Outer Banks when Sarah was about 10? I asked. That was such a great trip, Tom said, his whole face softening. Remember how Jake insisted on bringing home that huge conch shell, and it stunk up the car for the entire drive home? And Emma was so little she kept trying to eat the sand, Linda added, and I was delighted to see her smiling. You two were such wonderful partners, I told them. How you balanced each other out. Tom would plan all the activities, and Linda would remember the sunscreen and snacks and Band-Aids. Did you catch that word? Partners. When had they stopped being partners? After dinner, I had my first clever moment. Tom, would you mind helping me with my evening medications? My wrist makes it difficult to open these bottles. Now, did I absolutely need help every single evening? Let's just say some bottles were more stubborn than others, but more importantly, it gave Tom a way to feel useful and needed, a way to be gentle and caring, all the things he used to be with Linda. The next morning brought the real beginning of my strategy. I made sure to be up early, sitting at their kitchen table with Tom's favorite crossword puzzle book when Linda came downstairs. I got stuck on 17 across, I said innocently. Eternal commitment. 7 letters. Just then Tom appeared, and instead of rushing off to work like usual, he sat down at that table. You know, I haven't done a crossword in years. Linda and I used to do the Sunday puzzle together when the kids were little. We did? Linda asked, genuinely surprised. Every week, Tom confirmed. You were better at the wordplay clues, and I was good at the factual ones. We made a good team. There was that word again. Team. Over the next few days, I kept up my campaign. I developed a routine of asking Tom to help with my medications every morning and evening, creating natural moments between him and Linda. I insisted on family dinners in that dining room every night, turning their meals into occasions rather than obligations. But my cleverest move, and I'm rather proud of this one, was having little accidents with household tasks. Oh dear, I would say, standing before some high shelf. I need that serving platter, but I'm afraid I can't reach it with this cast. Tom would appear to help, and somehow Linda would find herself steadying the chair while he climbed, their hands brushing, their bodies closer than they'd been in months. Linda wasn't entirely fooled by these coincidences, but she found herself playing along anyway. There was something comforting about having a reason to work together again. The real breakthrough came on a Thursday evening. Exactly 1 week after I'd arrived, I had Margaret bring a large cardboard box from the farmhouse, old photographs I said I wanted to look through while recuperating. When Linda heard Tom and me talking in the living room, curiosity got the better of her. Linda, come join us, I called. I found some wonderful pictures of your wedding. She settled on Tom's other side, and I placed that heavy wedding album right across both their laps. Oh, you should have seen Linda's face when she saw that cover photograph. Herself and Tom on their wedding day, young and radiant, and absolutely convinced they could conquer the world together. You were such a beautiful bride, I told her softly. And Tom, you looked like you'd won the lottery. I had, Tom said quietly, glancing at Linda. We turned through those pages slowly, and I provided commentary on each image. Page after page revealed their life together, birthday parties and school plays, family vacations, and quiet Sunday mornings. In every photograph, you could see two people who were genuinely partners. When did we stop being those people? Linda whispered. I don't think we stopped, Tom said carefully. I think maybe we just forgot how to see each other clearly. That's when I knew it was time to give them privacy. I think I'll make some hot chocolate, I announced. From the kitchen, I could hear them having their first real conversation in months. Tom telling Linda he'd forgotten how beautiful she was when she was happy, Linda admitting she'd forgotten how to be happy. When I came back with that hot chocolate, I told them about your grandfather and me, and our tradition of looking through photographs every year. We called it remembering our way back to each other, I explained. Because sometimes, when life gets busy and complicated, we forget the people we fell in love with are still in there. Then I shared the truth I'd learned in 8 decades of living. Love isn't a feeling you fall into and hope stays forever. It's a choice you make every single day. Some days the choice is easy, but some days it's the hardest thing in the world. The couples who make it are the ones who keep choosing each other, even on the hard days, especially on the hard days. The next morning brought our first real test. Tom had an emergency client meeting, old Mrs. Patterson's son trying to contest her will again. But then something beautiful happened. Instead of just nodding politely, Linda moved to that coffee pot and started preparing Tom's travel mug exactly the way he liked it. Here, she said, handing it to him. And Tom, tell Mrs. Patterson that Linda Morrison is thinking about her. The look that crossed Tom's face, surprise, gratitude, recognition. That's when I knew we were making real progress. After Tom left, Linda found me arranging winter branches in a crystal vase. Tom had cut them from the backyard that morning, after I might have mentioned how your grandfather used to bring me little bouquets every week. Nana, what are you up to? Linda asked directly. Me? I'm just an old woman recuperating from a broken wrist, I said innocently, though I will say it's amazing what people remember about love when someone takes the time to remind them. You're matchmaking your own granddaughter. I'm helping two people I love remember that they love each other, I corrected gently. There's a difference. That's when she asked the question I'd been waiting for. But what if we're too broken to fix? So I told her the rest of my story, the part I'd never shared before, how I'd actually packed my bags and bought a train ticket to California, how close I came to leaving your grandfather for good. So what stopped you? She asked. He showed up at the train station, I said simply. Not with flowers or grand gestures. He just sat down beside me and said, Eleanor, I know I've been a fool. I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I can promise I'll try to be the man you fell in love with again, if you'll give me the chance. I watched Linda's face as I told her how we'd rebuilt what we'd let fall apart, how it took time and patience and forgiveness. I have divorce papers upstairs, she whispered. I figured you might, I said calmly. The question is, do you want to use them, or do you want to try fighting for your marriage first? Before she could answer, we heard Tom's car in the driveway. He was home hours earlier than usual. Tom came through that front door looking exhausted but somehow lighter. After telling us about helping Mrs. Patterson, he looked directly at Linda with more openness than I'd seen from either of them since I'd arrived. I came home because I realized I didn't want to spend another day avoiding my own life, he said. I want to try, Linda. I want to try to find our way back to each other, if you're willing. And that's when Mother Nature decided to lend a helping hand. Those first fat snowflakes of what would become the storm of the decade started falling outside our windows. Looks like we're going to be stuck inside together for a while, I observed with a smile. I caught the look that passed between Linda and Tom, the first moment of perfect understanding they'd shared in months. They were about to be trapped in that house together with nothing but time and each other, and a grandmother who clearly had plans for both of them. The real work was about to begin. And dear ones, what happened during that storm would change everything. Now tell me, dear ones, what's the best piece of marriage advice someone ever gave you? Or maybe you learned a hard lesson about love that you'd like to pass on to others. Share your wisdom in the comments below. Because when we share our stories, we help each other find the strength to keep choosing love.